Hello everybody, Floppy Waffle 69 here, and welcome back to the channel. Hey guys, today we are going to be doing a battle report review over the tier 9 dockyard ship, what was a prior dockyard ship, the Daisen. The Daisen vacuum. Alright, this was just a phenomenal game, and I figured I had to showcase this on the channel, guys. Again, I don't do many battle report videos. I'd much rather be doing like hardcore, in-depth review videos for you guys, talking a bit about the ship, having debates, that kind of stuff, just to better increase the knowledge of the player base on either how to play certain ships, or when you see a vast majority of ships or see these certain ships on the battlefield, kind of how to deal with them, or what they're good at, what they're not good at, that kind of stuff. Because I feel like there's a lot of YouTubers that like to highlight like personal replays that they do, and try to review about a ship where it's more so emphasized on the gameplay of them playing it rather than how the average player of World of Warships is going to be playing the game. And I think that's kind of doing a disservice to you as the player. Not everyone was enrolled and started the game off as a Unicom. You have to work to that, right? And that all starts with reps and the game knowledge too, right? So, but enough about that. I wanted to talk about this particular game with the Daisen. Now, this ship I feel like is not a ship that is played a whole hell of a lot, and I feel like this ship is kind of forgotten about in the I don't know what you want to use as a term, but kind of because there's so many ships in this game, and there's so many dockyard ships in this game, that I feel like this one isn't talked about because this one is just yet another Japanese battleship. And that couldn't be farther from the case, at least in my opinion. I think this ship is a little bit of a dark horse, and I think she's very, very good. As a matter of fact, I don't know why I don't play her more, because every time I get behind the wheel, so to speak, I have a really good game in her. And it's to no surprise once I looked over the stats and the statistics on the particular ship to why that is. From the artillery, from the platform, from just overall how she plays, this ship is a lot of fun for me. Kind of what this ship is, like kind of a brief description, because I know a lot of people want like, well, what is this ship? What does it do? That kind of stuff. Well, what this ship is, at least in my opinion, is a Japanese battle cruiser, much like that of like the Bungo line. So equivalent tier would be like the Atatara, where the spotter plane gimmick, once popped, makes those ships super deadly accurate. Well, the Daisen, not having access to that, is already going to have that kind of baked into the ship, though not quite as good. Okay, that's the one big difference. The next big difference is the armor. The armor overall is just better on the Daisen, rather than like the Bungo and Atatara line, where those are coated in 25mm armor. This has 32. I mean, yes, if we go over some of the armor stats, 32mm nose and ass, 305mm armor belt with 76mm deck slopes, and a 330 Arth ship, basically your Citadel. I didn't even realize this ship had kind of like that sloped armor slopes, whatever, the deck armor slopes. Going to the Citadel, so that might help a little bit in regards of damage mitigation, because sometimes I feel like this ship, when it should eat Citadels, it actually doesn't. And yes, the Citadel does stretch from the front turrets all the way to the rear turret, so this is quite a large Citadel. But again, if you're knowing how to angle, you're utilizing the armor belt, and all that stuff, I mean, that's still a lot of armor that the enemy has to get through in order to punch through to hit your Citadel and get the Citadel ribbons, which they can do if they have the pen, a high enough pen for it. But I'm just saying, as a general rule, you are sitting in quite a fair amount of armor. Now, some stuff I do want to point out with the Daisen. This ship at tier 9 is tied for the highest speed at tier 9, basically going and topping out at 35 knots. It is, though, on the downside, the biggest turning circle radius at 1,100 meters, which you will notice in this thing. The ship is not necessarily slim. This is quite a long ship, and it does turn like an absolute truck. So you're going to have to plan your maneuvers accordingly and understand that when you're committed in your turn, you're committed. There's no, oh, fuck, let me just juke it out real quick because your rudder takes that long. Which your rudder shift, if I'm not mistaken, is clocking out at 16 seconds, which again isn't too good. Again, it's still fast as hell compared to like the Montana, for example, but with that turning circle radius, it does feel rather sluggish. Another bright side about this particular ship is that it has the highest torpedo DPM at tier 9, which again I didn't realize. I mean, this does have two what, 2 quadruple launchers per broadside. And if I'm looking at what they are, these are the 4x4 610s, which have a maximum range of 10 kilometers, dealing around just under 21,000 damage. Having a super high flood chance at 355%, going around 67 knots, reloading in about 150 seconds, giving the opponent about a reaction time, about a 9.4 second reaction time. These torpedoes are actually quite spicy. Yeah, the only downside is the 10-kilometer range, and I really shouldn't be saying that because 10 kilometers is still 10 kilometers. That's still pretty damn comfortable. But we have ships up there like the Carl Johan, the Njord, that are far exceeding that now with faster torps and faster reload. And I thought for sure those ships actually had the highest torpedo DPM for tier 9 for battleships, but I was wrong. Again, this is another ship that's just kind of sliding by under the radar. Not many people are talking about this ship, and I think they should. And I hope that this ship does come back again, and Wargaming does something with previous dockyard ships. I'd like to see it some other shape or form rather than stuffing them into Santa crates, if that's what Wargaming has been doing with previous dockyard ships, which I think is really kind of scummy or stupid, or loot crates in general. But who knows? Because this is one ship that I hope that everyone can get their hands on, because I think they'll have a blast. And this is coming from someone that actually prefers cruisers. And this ship is very, very consistent in doing good damage. Now, yes, your downside is you only have 8 guns. I understand that. So if Dispersion tries to troll you, most likely you're going to land only 1 shell on target. But it really is not the case. And what I'm finding out with this ship is the artillery is actually pretty damn consistent. We're actually going to go to the main battery now. And the cool thing about this thing is, you know, when I clock out at its maximum range, which I believe I said was, what, 20 kilometers, about 20.6 kilometers. I mean, the vertical dispersion at 180 meters and the horizontal at 228 with a sigma rating of 2.1. 2.1 sigma is awesome. That is a very, very good sigma value. We're starting to get in levels of like cruiser sigma almost. It's pretty consistent, guys, and you're gonna find out, or maybe battle cruiser dispersion sigma values. I'm not 100% sure. I'm getting all bass backwards when I'm doing these videos sometimes, so I apologize. But again, that's nothing to shrug away and disregard. That again, it's lending to those consistent salvos to where you want them to go, pinpointing superstructures, pinpointing turrets, hitting exactly where I want to hit on the ship, and this ship is able to do that for me. And I didn't really think that this ship was possible, or that this ship had that capability to do that, because when you think of Japanese, you don't really think of consistency or accuracy. The only other ship that I'm really trying to think of when it comes to battleships that feels rather consistent to me, when again, I don't really want to talk about the Bungo line and their spotter plane gimmick, because let's be honest, those ships are basically balanced around their spotter plane gimmick. But like the Izumo, for an example, the buffed Izumo here, the Izumo feels really comfortable to play, especially now. Back in the day, was one of the worst, if not the worst, battleship to grind your way through. But now, with the way its artillery is, it just feels super comfortable, super reliable. And actually, I find myself playing the Azuma quite a fair amount, just because I want those consistent salvos. And again, your pen on these AP shells is actually pretty damn good. I mean, at maximum range, you're still rocking 524 millimeters of penetration. You know, that coupled with your Krupp at 2,700, you know, your weight of your shells being 1,020 kgs, with a flight time of 10.7 seconds and the impact speed of 563 meters a second. I mean, these shells are zooming across the battlefield and getting to that target relatively quickly, and it feels comfortable to lead the targets too. And especially when I'm shooting armor piercing at those ranges, I'm getting rewarded with the Citadel ribbons, especially against ships that you know, like cruisers and some battleships, because of the pen of these guns. These pens are so incredible. But again, when the pen is so incredible, just like we see a lot on the French ships, on the downside of that is when you get in close, especially a lot of, you know, lightly armed cruisers or lightly armored ships, your shells will zoom right through the target and just do nothing but overpens, which is a little bit of a downside. But again, if you play the ship right, that medium to long range, I feel like it really won't be that big of an issue, because the Daisen, at least in my opinion, might have the torpedo DPM, might have the torpedo power, but this certainly is not a brawling ship. And again, something to, I guess, not support my claim of being that this is not a brawling ship is the secondaries. Again, something that I didn't realize with the secondary DPM being, you know, 396,000, the actual hitting DPM of 78,000, like, and the reload between 5 to 8 seconds depending on the caliber of the gun. the secondaries actually put in some work, and I have no captain skills invested in the Daisen, and then when I find myself getting into those brawling situations, I'm actually landing a fair amount of secondaries on target. Now, I personally, for me, I wouldn't recommend building my Daisen for secondaries. I just feel like you're trying to make something that's barely doing any game impact for you anyways to be a little bit more important, but it's still, even with speccing skills into it, you're never going to get your secondaries to be a massive component for your gameplay and make it a big threat. Basically, is what I'm trying to say. Like when there's so many ships out there running around, especially at tier 8, or sorry, not tier 8, at tier 9 and higher, or tier 8 and higher if you want to go that route. With the Schleif online, with the Prince Ruprecht, of the Navarian. Obviously the Los Andes, the Valparaiso. There's just so many better secondary ships. And again, it's a Japanese ship, so you really don't want to be getting into those situations anyways. That coupled with your 32 millimeters of armor, nose, ass, and deck, like, you're just going to melt. You're going to melt so fast. So I highly recommend you do not spec and build into secondaries. It'd be a complete waste, and the ship is going to not perform that well, hence leading you to believe that the ship is ass, which it is very not the case. The ship is not shit. This is a very, very good ship. And again, I'm going to say, I've said it, 3 times already this video, this ship is not talked about enough. And I really hopefully wanting to change that for everyone, to get it out there, to get it known at least, that this ship is quite good. And I really like this ship because of its consistency. That is something you hear a lot of battleship players talk about, like, oh, this ship lacks consistency, this ship lacks consistency, blah, blah. And so I'm telling you, this ship is consistent. It's consistently good at what it does each and every game. Even if I find myself in tier 10 and super ship games, I'm still getting those damage numbers. I'm still getting those Citadel ribbons. I'm still landing said amount of shells on target per game. I feel like I'm having a battle impact, which is great. And again, this was a dockyard ship, and I think this dockyard ship kind of just blew over people's heads, like, oh yeah, another Japanese battleship, blah, blah, and so, and then boom. Never talked about again, and kind of laid to rest in port, because we have to play the latest and greatest stuff, right? Which, again, that is not the case. This ship is fucking phenomenal, and I cannot stress that enough. But I left off talking about the AP shell, so why don't we talk a little about the HE shells? Now, obviously the Bungo line is known to having pretty damn good high explosive shells, because that coupled with the spotter plane, you can really land a lot of shells on target, hence leading to not only good HE damage, because you have, 457s on the Bungo, but you are also going to be having good fire chance because you're landing so many shells on the target, hence increasing your fire setting chances. The Daisen is a little bit of a mixed bag. You do have a 30% fire chance. Again, with that reload is coming in at 27 seconds, right? But with the 30% fire chance, and again, you don't have the Bungo spotter plane, though you are pretty accurate. You're averaging around 5.3 fires per minute. This thing's HE can get the job done. You are penning 68 millimeters of armor, and you have damage about 6,500 damage. I would say the HE is not bad at all. I think the HE is definitely adequate, but I don't think this ship should be shooting HE. Just like in the Bungo, I wouldn't be shooting HE most of the time. I'd be mostly shooting armor piercing. But where the Bungo lacks penetration at range, and you find yourself shattering a lot when it comes to enemy battleships, I find that the Daisen doesn't have that problem. So I think the majority of the time you should be shooting your armor piercing rather than trying to get away shooting your high explosive. Because I think it's just kind of wasting salvos at this point. Of course, there's time and a place to shoot that high explosive. Shoot that high explosive. But I think for the vast majority of the time, you can get away with just shooting armor piercing, and you'll get rewarded more often than not with damn good damage, being able to take the target down as well. So that's pretty much the Daisen in a nutshell. And if you guys, hopefully you've been watching the game in the background, this game is phenomenal. This is a very, very fun game. And there is something that happens at the end of this game that I've only ever had happen twice in my World of Warships playing career, if that's what you want to call it. Which is, it's always kind of a meme to see, and it's kind of funny. But I thought for the second half of this game was shaping up to be a loss. I just think our team was spread way too thin. They were able to push around that that A flank, and I had to adequately retreat. And then obviously the Cyclone didn't help because we couldn't punish them while trying to turn broadside while heading to B. So the Cyclone definitely worked in their favor, and they were able to take full advantage of it. Obviously, we had a Nebraska that was caught in a tough situation. He was trying to play carrier in the middle of the map, which is always a negative, negative way to play those ships in general. But I guess at the end of the day, if they're playing it up and close, they're more inclined to use their guns and more likely hitting something rather than sitting at A1 in their Kearsarge just sending out planes nonstop, doing nothing. So I guess you have to weigh the pros and the cons of that, especially in random battles. I think hybrids are very dangerous and deadly ships if played correctly. They can be very team-oriented with the plane spotting and how to abuse that. But I think for the vast majority of players, they just, you know, battleships already don't take that much skill in order to play. And I think hybrids just take that to the next level of trying to dumb it down. And trying to blur the lines between aircraft carrier and battleship. And I think a lot of players just can't handle that amount of shit to do. I think the vast majority of players, it's just too much for them. So that's one downside that you see, or a big downside you see about hybrid ships. But again, you know, especially me, someone that understands the game, and I guess maybe some of you do as well, playing hybrid ships can be a lot of fun if you know how to switch and spot for your team and how to abuse ships based upon your torpedo bombers, your HE bombers, whatever it may be. So obviously, like I told you in the beginning of the video, the Daisen is not a brawler, but of course I was forced into a brawling situation, so thank God I have these hard-hitting torpedoes that are able to land and sink, what, 3 ships now indirectly just based on my torpedoes. I think it was at the Cleveland, the Flandre, and now the Lenin, so hey, I'll take it. But again, I'm not trying to force myself in these situations. I was forced based upon the Cyclone, so please understand what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying this ship is a brawler, but I'm also saying if you play it right and you're forced in these situations, it definitely can utilize those torpedoes. And I don't want to say brawl because I feel like the wrong kind of word, but handle itself enough to maybe dish out some damage before going down. That's all I'm trying to say. So, but yeah, this game is shaping up to be a 2v2, but I have a feeling my Shokaku is going to go down. But then all of a sudden, their carrier, instead of going back the other direction, comes back at me. I don't understand why. That seems very counterproductive, and I'll say as it is, pretty stupid. I don't know why he did this. Maybe he thought I was going to continue to see and thought he could close the distance without being spotted and just reconcile his planes quicker and get his squadrons out faster to do more damage. I'm sure that's what it was, but I guess I made a, you know, the old 180, and now he's coming head on to me. So here we go, right? I should be able to take him out. I have enough HP that's adequate enough in order to survive strike after strike. And the Minnesota's far enough away where I don't think he's too much of a threat. So I'm able to dump both my torpedo loads, try to turn out here to dodge. But you're going to see, even when a not so good drop happens with torpedo bombers, just because my turning circle radius 1,100 is just so incredibly bad with a 16-second rudder shift stock. It's just, this thing handles like an absolute semi, boys. And it's so fucking hard to deal with aircraft. I think aircraft is definitely a big downside. I did find my AA to be actually damn well good against tier 8 carriers. When I say damn well good, okay, put the air quotes on that. But again, the second you get to tier 10 or super carrier games, good luck, guys. It's not that good. It's not that good at all, and it's going to be an absolute struggle bus to try to deal with enemy aircraft carriers when you get to those upper tiers, right? So now my final thoughts about the Daisen, guys. Because this is the point of the video where I talk about and summarize everything that we've talked about, and just do some brief overview thoughts about her. So the big thing about the Daisen that I think is very underlooked is her armor-piercing shell capability at ranges in order to snipe enemy citadels and just do consistent damage to the enemy. This ship does a very good job at just doing damage and harassing the enemy. And I think it's very good. And then when you close the distance, you have those 10-kilometer torpedoes. I caught a couple ships off guard here just because of those torpedoes. They forgot I had those. The Daisen is one of those ships you just forget it has torpedoes. You think it's just a battleship with 8 guns that has mediocre accuracy and is not very reliable with kind of battle cruiser levels of armor, which is just not the case. This ship can do very, very well. And hopefully I showcase that today, you know, with this video, that I don't think it's talked about enough, and I don't think enough people play this ship. If you have a Daisen, I think it's time to dust her off, boys, and take her back down to the 7 seas and do some good damage like I was able to do. This is one of those ships that I just happen to see in my port. I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna play this ship because I haven't played this ship in forever. And I'm gonna try to see what I can do on her, right? And again, I'll try to do other videos on older dockyard ships as well, but I figured because this was such a good game, why the hell not feature this ship, showcase this one off, and the security or the obscurity of what I'm about to get here, which I don't know if any of you have ever seen this, but we actually clock in at a draw. The weirdest damn thing I've ever seen. But hey, I was able to turn a sure loss into a draw, and I will 100% take that. So anyways, guys, I will leave you with the post-battle stats. This was indeed an E rank, and it was one hell of a game, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video for today. Remember to like and subscribe, comment down below, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a good day, have a good night, and peace out.